Let's talk trade rumors now here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Beginning with Stephon Gilmore, because he did not report to mandatory minicamp on Monday, which means a holdout is underway for the former NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Now, Gilmore is in the last year of his deal, and the trade rumors around him are certainly not new. They have been floated continuously, with the Seattle Seahawks among the teams linked more so speculatively than anything else. On one hand, it does make some sense. I mean, I think we all remember how good Stephon Gilmore was in 2019. His yards per target was below 6. He had 20 pass breakups, picked off 6 passes, was allowing barely 50% of the passes thrown his way to be completed. He had no touchdowns allowed. However, Gilmore last year was not the same guy. There was some regression, and as he approaches 30 and beyond, that is a bit of a red flag for NFL teams. He's also coming off, by the way, a partially torn quad. We'll get to his trade value here later on, but specifically for Seattle, he would instantly make this cornerback room substantially better. He would slot in at cornerback 1. I remain a big fan of DJ Reed, but is he a number 1? I don't think so. Akella Witherspoon, Pierre Desir, Trey Flowers, 4th-round rookie Trey Brown, Demarius Randall, others are not legitimately number 1 corners. Like, that's not good enough, and you can argue there might not be that many number 2 corners there either. I feel fine at nickel between Marquise Blair, Ugo Amadi, DJ Reed. They are set at the nickel corner spot. But it's that number 1 corner, that shutdown number 1 guy that this Seattle Seahawks team, at least for now, does not have on the roster. Now, as you kind of teased a second ago, the highest paid cornerback room is, I think, what Stephon Gilmore wants to be a part of. He wants to get a big fat new deal. He's making next to nothing this upcoming year. Now, he is older, and older players in general don't get paid big money, although Darius Slay certainly did. With a rising salary cap, I feel confident saying that Stephon Gilmore is going to crack this list. He'll probably make around $17 million per year. That is an issue for a Seahawks team that also, as we've discussed before, needs to get a Jamal Adams deal done, needs to get other contracts sorted out long term. Yes, it fills a massive, massive need, but it also limits them from a salary cap perspective. Paying Gilmore would be part of any trade. Now, hypothetically here, I put together this trade package. As I've mentioned many a time on our various platforms here at Chat Sports, I don't know what the Stephon Gilmore trade value is. I'll put it as a second-round pick, kind of like what Julio Jones went for, because you got to pay him. He's now on the wrong side of 30. He's coming off the injury. New England is not selling high in the same way they would have been this time last offseason. So because of that, I do think the trade value from a draft pick perspective is doable. I think a 2020 second-round pick, probably about right for Seattle and for New England. But you also have to pay Gilmore a significant amount of money. And that amount of money is a potential issue with guys like DJ Reed, Jamal Adams, and others all entering the final year of their deal. Because of that, I'm not 100% even close to expecting a trade for Gilmore. Frankly, I think it's a lot more likely Seattle does not acquire a cornerback at his cost, both draft capital-wise and money-wise. But what would you guys do? Let's have you guys play some GM now for me. Would you trade for Stephon Gilmore? Let's say it's the second-round pick and $17 million per year over 3 or 4 years. Are you doing that? Get your votes in for me. Type in Y for yes or N for no. Let's turn our attention now to Jamal Adams and his future with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, with where things currently sit, the Seahawks are set to start mandatory minicamp on Tuesday. Adams, meanwhile, is in the last year of his contract. And there's been some speculation out there, CBS Sports and others, that Adams could elect to hold out. We will see if that happens. He's not been at voluntary OTA so far, which isn't the worst news ever. I mean, Russell Wilson, probably Wagner, but they're back. Adams is not yet. So we will have to wait and see what ends up happening from that perspective if he holds out. I would not be surprised either way. Adams battled through injury last year, is set to be healthy, and not only that, Seattle gave up a lot for him. They moved a ton of critical assets, draft capital-wise, and a starting caliber safety, to go get Jamal Adams. 11 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, was awesome in the box. Wasn't particularly great in coverage, and that is a little bit of a red flag. But regardless, I think everyone around Seattle expects Jamal Adams to be the highest paid safety in the NFL. Now, figuring out the structure and all that good stuff is a little bit complicated, and that makes it tricky to get these massive deals done overnight. But I think the baseline, and we'll come back to what I mean by baseline here in a second, is Justin Simmons. $15.25 million. He just got that deal from the Denver Broncos. And as guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James, if he's healthy, end up getting big-time deals, they'll probably surpass that. If Seattle gets that deal done before Minkah and maybe Derwin James, they'll save money. But my suspicion here, and this is speculation, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, is that Adams probably wants more than just safety money. There was a report last year that he wanted $20 million from the Jets. I don't think he wants that from Seattle. I think that was part of the get-me-traded type of deal. But he could be asking for linebacker money. And linebacker money at the top end is different than the top-end safety market right now. I'm betting Seattle does not want to pay Jamal Adams more than what they're paying Bobby Wagner currently. However, that's kind of the situation that they're in right now. They have to find a way to get Adams paid, or they're going to lose out on what they gave up for him. So maybe it's $17 million. Maybe it's something along somewhere of those lines. If things get bad, by the way, and if they don't get a deal done and he skips part of training camp or minicamp and then shows up and plays and they want to franchise tag him instead in the end, I think that is important to keep an eye on this. The franchise tag for a linebacker is different than a franchise tag for a safety. And I bet that Adams would file a grievance to be counted as a linebacker. Now, I think that would be cheating a little bit because the reality is the linebacker franchise tag includes edge rushers. That's why it's over $4 million more. But if it drags out, which I don't necessarily think is going to, that certainly is something that you should keep an eye on as it relates to Seattle and what they might be forced to do in the long run. So we'll know more on Tuesday if Jamal Adams shows up at minicamp or if by definition a holdout is on in Seattle. So get your votes in. Will Jamal Adams be at minicamp for the Seattle Seahawks? If you think the answer is yes, type in Y for yes. If you think it's not, type in N for no.